Hey, Kaylee, welcome. Hello. How are you doing? Are you enjoying the sun at all today? Hi, Bailey, welcome. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're getting out and enjoying the sun a little bit. I know the weather has not been for the past few days, but today it's absolutely glorious. So I hope both of you are getting out and enjoying the sun a little bit. I don't have a wind screen for my mic, which is those fluffy things. Yeah. Another installment of the Bailey, Kaylee, and Mr. Hair Club. Yeah, exactly. And that's okay. It's a good club. Good people. Just so y'all know, I don't have a windscreen, which is one of those fluffy things for my mic. So if you're hearing me breathe or something, or it's kind of obnoxious, let me know. I can move it farther away from my face. I ordered some a while ago, but I haven't gotten it yet. That's awesome that you were longboarding around the block. That's a great way to spend the day. Longboarding is a lot of fun. I did skateboarding when I was in middle school, and I got like a trick skateboard with really good trucks and um, bearing. I could go fast, and I could never do a trick. I don't think I had the guts to actually commit to it and really jump and get messed up. So I never actually did much of a trick, but I always went really fast. I loved going fast, and we had a lot of hills and stuff. So I think longboarding would be more my speed. Ah, Bailey is boiling alive, but only on my back. Okay, so I take it you're out enjoying the sun and lying on your tummy on like maybe a blanket or a lawn chair or something. It's great. Get that vitamin D. Miss Punzel's out gardening. She's got a really great garden up at Eagle Heights where you can get a plot. And so she's got a really healthy garden. That's her way of enjoying the sun. Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is longboarding, much respect for my limbs to skateboarding. Longboarding is pretty, I guess tame. I guess tame is the word I'm going to use. It's a little too diminutive for me, but tame is, I guess, a pretty good word for. It's kind of a low stakes skateboarding where it's kind of smooth sailing, and you're not going to do any tricks with it. You're just gliding, and it's pretty great. Yeah, don't knock it till you try it. Sounds like sitting on your porch is a good way to be. Yeah, there's something to getting outside and just breathing air. Oftentimes when I go out, I'll be wearing a mask, but there are points during our walks or our bike rides where I'll take off the mask just for a breathe or catch my breath when I'm sure it's safe. And it's so nice to taste air, fresh air. And I think it's really healthy. So I'm glad that y'all are taking advantage. That's one thing that growing up in California wasn't such a big deal, where it was sunny a lot of the time, so people tended to kind of take it for granted. Um, Whereas here in Wisconsin, there's this real sense of, okay, it's snowing, let's go take advantage of the snow. Okay, it's sunny out, let's go take advantage of the sun. And there's a real kind of common fundamental understanding of that, which is really interesting, which I think is really healthy. It's really good. It's just, it's different. It's definitely different. That's not to say that Californians are bad or anything. There's just when you have that privilege, you kind of take it for granted. When you're spoiled, I guess. Yeah. So Bailey's saying she appreciates not having neighbors and not having to worry about a mask when you go outside. Yeah. Um, that is nice. Miss Punzel and I live in the Monroe Street neighborhood, and we definitely have a lot of neighbors. So it's important to wear a mask. But even when we go out on a path, like a walking path out in nature or something, it's still important to wear a mask just because you never know who you're going to cross. Um, but it's true. If you live in really, really, really rural areas, it's true, and there are more studies coming out now that says that it's significantly safer to be outdoors than it is to be indoors. And I think this is going to really change how we conceive of germs and safety and stuff, where, you know, um, there's going to be a greater appreciation safety of being outdoors. Okay, great question, Bailey. How seriously are you going to be grading the speaking final for French? I have no will to do anything but watch British game shows currently. That's fine. Teachers are pretty burned out right now too. I think this whole debacle has been a real exercise in how can people find motivation when there's very little to no intrinsic motivation, and extrinsic, I should say. There's very little extrinsic motivation, and it's all leaning on, okay, are you intrinsically motivated? Are you motivated for yourself? So I would rate it for completion, and I tried to make that clear in the rubric where if you answer the questions relatively thoroughly, great, 100%. If you forget to answer questions, if there's some English that pops through, um, if you just give a yes or no answer to these much more like in-depth questions, then yeah, you might lose 5 points or something. But I'm going to be as indulgent as I can while still trying to hold you to some kind of standard. So it's hard to answer that question briefly, but my briefest answer would be pretty gently, but harder than um, I don't know, the Little Prince readings where it's like, great, you did it, boom, boom, boom. But I feel like there has to be a tiny amount of standard just to kind of um, yeah. What I would say is take your time doing it and practice, and really make sure that you're answering the questions, so not only going through and kind of answering them on the fly, but taking notes and thinking like, oh, I want to make sure I say this, this, and this. um, for each of the questions, this is the minimum answer I want to give, and then you can kind of elaborate on it. You'll notice I didn't include a length for how long the recording's supposed to be. So take advantage. If you're really worried about not getting a good grade, and you want to record 7 minutes, fine. I have a hard time seeing somebody doing very, very well with a recording that's under a minute and a half. But it's I guess it wouldn't be impossible. Um, so it's kind of open-ended from that perspective. But I guess my advice in preparing for it would be to just go through and answer every question as thoroughly as possible, and practice. You could even record yourself and listen back to yourself. Um, yeah, but I'm not looking to kind of nitpick. I'm not looking to be real particular. I'm more just looking to be like, okay, this is the this is the last assignment for French 4, and let's let's do something that's robust, that's substantial, without having it be too cumbersome. And there are some folks who have really struggled, and for good reason. I mean, this is a really difficult time. There are some folks in the class who have really, really struggled to get um, the assignments that I thought were more kind of doable, more flexible done, simply because, I have my own bias. I have my own perspective of what's doable and what's not. Um, and so for those students, I've said, hey, don't worry about it. Don't worry about these little things, but I do need you to do this last thing. This last kind of spoken response. And expectations are a little different for them, but they're still being held to that of responding thoroughly, even if it's less focused on the little prints reading that they haven't done. So again, this meant to be just kind of a closing assignment. I realize I'm kind of rambling, but is that a pretty satisfactory answer? I feel like I've answered your question. Sorry for rambling a little bit. It's pretty weird being the only one talking. I've never mentioned that, but it's definitely kind of odd being like, okay, I'm talking into a void. And so it's nice to get your text messages, but it's definitely strange to be a voice in the void. Cool. Okay. And that's a great question. That's a really great question, and I really appreciate you asking it because I haven't gotten any yet. I have gotten 0 questions yet. Yeah, we could do a Google Meet. I haven't had the greatest success with Google Meet. The video quality is not great. The sound quality is not great. It drops calls a lot. And then we've kind of had this, and so I hesitated. I thought about that, but I hesitated to like, okay, even if you're not one of the, part of the Bailey Kaylee Mr. Hair Club, even if you're not part of that regular attending group, okay, Mr. Hair will be on from 3 on Wednesdays. Um, so I hesitated for that reason. But that said, Google Meet when that allowed, and I haven't taken advantage of it yet. But if you or one of your classmates really wants to do that, um, I'd be happy to do that. We could do it. It can't be one-on-one, but it would be one-on-one, like me and one of you, and then Miss Punzel would like observe or something, or your parent, I guess, or something. That's great that you did it for psych. I know that some classes, like it sounds like psych, but also American Sign Language and things like music, did set up parameters to have safe, video conferencing with students. Um, the World Language Department did that to a certain extent, like I said, for ASL. But for the most part, we've kind of stuck to the guidelines of like, you know what, it's safer, it's fine, sure. Um, for better or for worse, right? Because I'll bet for psych it was really nice to see. I don't know if it was with Miss Domris, but I'll bet it was really great to see her and then see your other fellow students and stuff. And that's something that's really missing right now, I think, in everybody's life, not just for y'all, but also for teachers. I think we're all kind of feeling that every day for 2 weeks. Wow, that just registered with me. That's a lot. Do we need to let you know that we want to continue reading Le Petit Prince? No, no, you don't. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste your Verona emails, and I will email you some thoughts as you read, kind of like I've been doing on the Canvas discussion, and links to the class kick. And if you want to keep doing it, I'd be thrilled. I think it's a great book, and it would be a shame to not finish what you've started. There's a lot that we didn't get to, just for the sake of time. I wanted to go a little slower, and unfortunately, that meant we didn't get nearly as far as I'd hoped. Um, but I'll be emailing it to everybody, and I'll be inviting people to unsubscribe, I guess. Let me know, and then I'll remove them from the email. Um, but you can count on being included in those emails unless you actively say, "Hey, cut it out." Um, and this is totally uncharted territory where I'm going to be providing this support in a way that's not, holding you accountable. It won't be, there's no grade. It's the summer and it's totally extra, but it's still work, where it takes time to kind of get through this text and read it. And I wouldn't be surprised if motivation fell off even farther. That wouldn't surprise me. But at the very least, for me, I would love to give y'all this text. For me, like, I would feel kind of sad, I guess, leaving y'all with the first, 5 chapters of Le Petit Prince without going into some of the real meat of the text. And if that means, um, again, launching class kicks and kind of discussion questions into the void, so be it. Um, because I know that it's something that you might come back to later. Um, maybe in the beginning of the summer, you're not so engaged, but then towards the end, you're kind of bored. Um, or it's kind of sporadic. And, I'm happy to provide that. So there is a real sadness for me, just because it's a text that's worth reading thoughtfully and carefully and really having active discussions about it. It's that this happened, but that could be said for so many things, especially for seniors, especially this year. So oops. Oh, that's so great to hear, Kaylee. Kaylee said, I'm watching Avatar: The Last Airbender finally. Oh, I'm thrilled. I'm really, really glad to hear that. It's so great that it's on Netflix now. It's a classic. Like, it's it's one of the best shows I think ever. Um, I don't say that lightly. I've really recommended it to my sister because she has 2 kiddos. One's 8 and the other's probably coming up on 4. Um, and I said, "Oh, you should really check this out." And she's like, "Oh, I don't know. I'll have to look into it." And I said, "Trust me, like it's really good." What do you think so far, Kaylee? What episode are you on? What's happening? What do you think of the different characters, like Sokka and Katara, Aang, Zuko, Uncle Iroh? Ugh, so good. Oh, sweet. Yes. I don't know what happens at episode 12. I haven't rewatched it lately. But yeah, Uncle Iroh is a gem. He's a really special. Yeah. It's like with Uncle Iroh, there are very few characters I've cared about as much in an animated show as Uncle Iroh. Ugh. Come, Zuko, sit down and drink some hot cha. Hippie uncle. Oh shit. Shit, shit, shit. I accidentally hit back as I was scrolling through my computer between my tabs. I accidentally navigated back on my browser, and I was like, "Oh no, did I destroy the stream?" That would have been really rough. Whew, close call. Yeah, I don't know what F. Oh, free response question. Yeah, that's fine. There's no worries. Boy, and then this is the last push. I didn't realize that classes ended on the 22nd for seniors, and that's just wild to me. Like it totally shifted. Like I was like, oh man, I thought we had a whole nother week, but um, and what does it even mean these days? But yeah, I definitely um, this is probably a big kind of crunch time, even though it probably feels kind of weird. If it makes you feel any better, this has definitely been a very unproductive day for me as well. Yeah, time is a flat circle indeed. Yeah, it's like today's Wednesday. It's like, okay, well, what is Wednesday? Um, yeah, yeah. And you're gonna have unproductive days, and that's okay. And I think, hopefully, if this changes one thing, I hope it changes, especially at the university level. I hope it changes people's perspective around mental health and different types of demands we make on people. I know at UW, it was classes were hard, um, but we pushed students too hard, I think. And there wasn't enough. I made a point of doing this because I'm me, but generally speaking, there isn't a whole lot of structure built in for accounting for students who are struggling emotionally or just physically or what have you. Um, and I hope this crisis marks a kind of paradigm shift where people start taking that stuff more seriously and like, okay, yeah, you're going through some stuff. Okay, cool, take it easy. Um, there will be this consequence, and we'll have to kind of shift these things around. But to have that kind of flexibility built into classes instead of just arbitrary, depending on the teacher. So good luck on stats. look like you got some sun. Hmm? Yeah, it's the Kaylee Bailey and Mr. Kaylee mentioned that she started watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is just amazing. Like she's finishing season one. She says it's really good. Yeah, Kaylee. Zuko is. Yes, I hope he and Uncle Iroh get to see each other again. I hope so too. Yeah. Again, I kind of forget, so it's kind of a nice thing that I could probably go revisit, and I wouldn't be robbed of the kind of fun of watching it anew, sort of, if that makes sense. Yeah, Zuko, gosh, he's such a good villain, um, and he's got such a good story. He's got good reasons for being a villain, and his character does change quite a bit. He's got probably one of the best character arcs in any series. So, yeah, he's kind of the Yang to Aang's yin. So, Kaylee, are you watching it alone, or is I think you have an older sister, younger sister? Are you watching it with family? Do you have friends who are watching it kind of alongside you and you guys are kind of chatting about it like a book club but better? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that your younger sister isn't hooked. That's okay. It's true that no matter how good a series is going to be, it's not always for everybody, and it also, sometimes you have to be in the right headspace. Miss Punzel and I have been watching Madame Secretary on Netflix, which I highly recommend. I think it's a really good series, but it's a little intense. And so, even that, it's like, oh, no matter, how good a series is, sometimes you just need to take a break, or sometimes you're not really in the mood. So, yeah, maybe she'll come back around. Who knows? Yeah. Yep. I know how that goes. That can be pretty frustrating. You're like really trying to give a recommendation for somebody, and they're like, nope, nope, I'm good. It's like, oh, but it's so good. I want you to share in the joy. That can be tough. I definitely feel your pain there. We are watching a series, Carrie, and it's produced and starring Tia Leone, who's I don't know where I've seen her before, but the name she's got a name recognition at least for me. Um, and she's a really I don't know. It's not a perfect show, but I think she's a really great actress, and it's a really great role, and it's really engaging. It's kind of political thriller, I guess you could call it, um, drama. She plays a woman who worked for the CIA and then has since gone back to being a professor at a university, and she's been called in to become Secretary of State. And it's essentially, it's not exactly mirroring President Obama and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, but it's clearly inspired by that. Um, she's kind of fierce and uncompromising and uh, passionate, which is really fun. Um, and the characters tend to be three-dimensional, which is really nice. It's not just archetypes. Archetypes are fun too. I watched Demon Slayer, which is a an anime, and it's strictly archetypes. Anime is great for that, but sometimes you want fleshed out characters. And it's a drama, but it's fun. Like the characters are complicated and mostly likable, but Madam Secretary, they're kind of charming. Like the characters are kind of charming, and that's not to say that they're not bad at sometimes, but they feel real and they feel like engaging, interesting people. And it's a great one of the reasons I like it is because her husband is a big part of her life, but he's kind of a supporting cast member. He's got his own life going on, but to see a woman in power and her husband kind of playing the supporting role, and that sounds like it would be really trite and kind of played out in 2020 or kind of oversimplified, but it's actually really not. We don't get enough of that. I think that's really cool. And there's somebody which I think is very well. Oh yeah, it's not so fun, huh? Ha 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 ha. We've put up sticky tape so that our cats don't scratch at the TV and stuff, and it's working. That was my evil laugh because he's realizing it's not so much fun to be. Good times. Yeah. Uh-oh. He's like, wait, what am I gonna do? But it's my spot. It. Uh-oh. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Yeah. They get up on the router. So right now he's on the Wii U between the TV and the router. And it's like, okay, is he gonna mess up the router? So if I lose connection, you'll know why. But he's like tiptoeing, barely balancing like an acrobat, trying to avoid the sticky tape, which is really no fun for cats. This is not like a puzzle, bud. We just want you to stay off of it. He looks like me trying to solve a puzzle in a Zelda shrine. Okay, Avatar question. Is Uncle Iroh your favorite character, or do you have another favorite? They're all really good, would be my answer. Again, it's a great series because the characters are great, because the storyline's great, and the pacing's really good. I think Aang is kind of interesting. I think he'd be boring on his own, but with Sokka and Katara, he becomes much more interesting. Um, Sokka is probably one of my least favorite, but even he has his moments, and I think his character makes sense, like why he does the things he does. Katara can be kind of annoying sometimes, but I think she's pretty good too, and I think it's really great to see her as one of the essentially main characters. Um, I like Zuko a lot for his character arc. He really pissed me off, but oftentimes when a character really irritates you, there's a reason for it, right? And um, it doesn't always mean that that's meant to be done, but oftentimes that is how it's written. Is like, hey, we want him to be annoying. We want him to piss you off, and there's something to be said for that. Like, can you have a show where people like your characters, but some characters people absolutely hate, and that you kind of get that buy-in, right? That's buy-in. So I like Zuko. I like Uncle Iroh. I like Aang. I like Katara. Um, Toph is amazing. So you haven't met Toph yet, but Toph I probably like almost more than Uncle Iroh. Um, and I don't think you've met Toph yet, but I think that's probably the best character. Uncle Iroh is amazing in his own right, but if I had to pick one, it would probably be Toph. Yeah, she's awesome. It's such a progressive show. the, the representation is really, 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 really good, and that's one of the reasons I like it so much. Not because it's like virtuous, but because it's like, oh, it can be done. It can be done well. Yeah, Toph. That's great, Kaylee. Yeah, that's I feel like that's the best way to do it, where the show has been out for such a long time and there's so much you can't help but hear certain hints of kind of what's coming down the pike or what people like about it. Like what I just said now, like Toph, like you haven't met Toph yet, but I just said she's my favorite character. Um, and it's not spoiled for you yet. So that's really perfect. Like that's that sweet spot of you've got the kind of um, small taste for kind of what's to come, but you don't know how it'll happen or when or even what it'll look like. But like okay, well, there's roughly this thing that happens eventually. Um, that's so cool. That's so cool. I definitely envy you right now. That's a good place to be. But I suppose I'm not that far off. Where it's been so long since I've watched it, I don't know. I don't remember when things happen or how. And part of the reason the show is so great is that the storylines are so well crafted and they all kind of intertwine pretty well without feeling contrived. But the character arcs are so powerful, and you really care about them. They're not just paper cutouts. They're really intriguing characters, and you really care about their fates and the decisions they make. And sure enough, that's like front and center of the show. So nothing but good things to say. Yeah, yeah, they are pretty sweet, and they definitely meow. They're really sweet. They play together a lot. It's been a lot of fun to be home with them. Do you have any pets, Kaylee? What's it been like being home? Our pets are definitely really, really happy to have us home. We should take our cats out on the leash at some point. Maybe not today, but tomorrow if it's nice. So your sister is the closest you got to a pet. She's really wacky. That's pretty funny. Has she done anything particularly wacky since the quarantine started, or has her wackiness subsided? Has it changed its tune? Have you had less patience for it, or appreciated it more since you're in quarantine? Whoa, cool. Oh, that's very cool. It's from Dragon Ball Z, and it's a variant. Like that's he doesn't have those scars. He doesn't wear those outfits, but clearly like it's inspired by Son Goku. It's cool air effects. Rapunzel was asking me about a student's artwork who did a portrait of kind of like a Son Goku type character from Dragon Ball Z. That's yes, that is yep. Did they do that? Uh, that's a really common. That might have been low key traced. Yeah. Well, and it's a format like if you get good at drawing it, it's not that hard to reproduce. But that's an interesting one because he's got his tail on, and Super Saiyans when they have their tail on, when there's a full moon, they turn into a giant gorilla and they become mega powerful. And so traditionally, like Son Goku and his son Gohan have taken off their tail. Birds. Our cats see birds just outside the window, and now it's prime time. Oh, funny. Yeah. It doesn't make sense, right? Why does it go from 59 to 100? Yeah, that doesn't make sense. It's a good question to ask. It's definitely one of those things where it's like, like you said, not the brightest of the bunch, but that's a legit question. That's good observation. That's sweet. So we've got about 5 more minutes, and I'm happy to keep talking, but I will have to go at 4. Um, are there any questions that you have for me? I know that there were some really great questions asked earlier about the Petit Prince oral assignment. I'm sure you've got a lot of work to do in your other classes right now. Um, yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad. Yeah, I want you all to feel really confident going into it, and again, the questions are really just rehashing some of the stuff that we've already discussed. So I hope that you're able to use the discussion from Canvas to really kind of help you flesh out some answers that you feel good about. Oh, I have not played Pokemon Ruby Sapphire. I've only played Pokemon Red and Blue and Sword and Shield. Oh, fun. Who's the rival from that game? I'll have to look him up. It's funny that you ask that because I am playing Pokemon cards right now on my iPad. My nephew is just turned 8, and I got him some Pokemon cards for his birthday, and he's really, really into it, and I really miss seeing him. So I'm gonna try to. I'm starting to play a lot more on that online version of the game. It's free, um, so that I can kind of play with him. But I enjoy it a lot more than I'd like to admit. It's like Magic the Gathering, but a little simpler. Wally, interesting. I'll have to Google him. How is he different from the other rivals? Mitsuru, young sickly boy. Huh. So he sounds like he's kind of a sympathetic character where it's like he's a rival, but you don't necessarily want him to lose. Oh, and he's got, yeah, I like that Pokemon a lot. He's got, I forget the name of that Pokemon. Yeah, I like Routes and Gardevoir a lot. That's cool. Interesting, yeah. So he doesn't taunt. It sounds like with Sword and Shield they might have taken a big hint from this character. Kind, calm, gentle, shy, and passive. Not traits you often see in a rival. That's so cool. Oh, he seems really cool. Thanks for telling me about him, Kaylee. That's really great. He seems like a great kid. That's the kind of rival I would want to have. Yeah, a friendly rival. Yeah. And Hop was friendly too, but he personality. And I feel like he's got kind of the opposite. Like where Hop started out really confident and then totally lost confidence. That was kind of a bummer. I feel like this would be much more interesting where Wally sounds like he doesn't have a lot of confidence and he gets more confidence little by little, which I think is a really great model for kids to have. Way more interesting for a story. That's cool. Funny. That That's pretty funny. There should have been a thing built in for that where if you let Wally beat you, you get some secret unlock that you wouldn't normally get instead of just like, oh, try again next time. That's pretty sweet. That's really sweet, Kaylee. That's a good anecdote. I hope you include that with your drawing somewhere. Like, Wally is such a good adversary that you want him to win, that you're rooting for him. That's pretty good. I like that. Okay, well, it is 4 p.m., which means I will have to run. Thanks for joining. I'm glad I could answer a couple questions, and it's a good check-in. It's always nice to check in with y'all, even if there's not too much to say. Um, and I really hope Yeah, likewise. Yeah, it's always fun. It's always nice. Um, and I really hope you all take care of each other, take care of yourselves, and take advantage of the things that we do have, which is like nice sun and stuff, and time to draw Wally. Uh, and best of luck. And I'll see y'all next week. I'll post a lesson on Friday, and I'll follow up on Monday just as kind of a reminder. Um, but at this point, it'll all be kind of optional and kind of winding down. Uh, but I really am thinking of y'all. I thought of y'all a lot last week with the graduation ceremony. Um, I watched Graduate Together, which was produced by LeBron James and featured President Obama speaking. Um, and yeah, and y'all will hear from me on Friday. And until then, take good care, be gentle with yourselves, and see you later. Au revoir.